welcome at CESI Insights, the impact of Corona, today with Dirk Anton van Mulligen. Dirk Anton is a business economist working in the field of leadership development. He has been working for over 22 years in this on the subject, and if I understood well, he was head lecturer of the master stress management and organizational health, and
that's correct.
He has become an expert on how to make organizations future-proof. Hello,
yes.
Dirk Anton. So you help clients to reinvent themselves personally and professionally, and the whole society basically has come to a halt with the containment, with the lockdown, say, measures in the context of Corona. And you see, of course, also with your professional background, the possibilities. I mean, the crisis is a tragedy, is a human tragedy. So many losses so many lives have been lost. But you also think we should, at this moment, seize the opportunity for transformation from the way into a direction away from the way we've been functioning in the past into a different direction. And you say that the majority of the current leaders, regardless of which kind of companies, private business, public sector, trade unions, etc., have basically valued and practiced more competitive individualism in their work ethics. Will this apply after Corona too?
I think that that we have a chance to decide for ourselves whether this will apply after Corona. For me, this whole period is kind of surrealistic, Klaus. About now some 8 years ago, I wrote a book together with a colleague of mine. I gave it to you once, but it's in Dutch, so limited reach. But we wrote a book for people to prepare for 2020, for this year, because we saw coming that the way society and society systems were run was not conducive towards preserving our humanity in the future. Kim and I, when we wrote the book, we saw that this, what you refer to, this competitive individualism, which we were all brought up in a sense, that this also colored the way we organize our organizations, the way leadership is being valued. And we saw an opportunity coming to recreate organizations based on a more sustainable point of view. And the irony of the whole thing is that we, of course, never saw this Corona crisis coming, but we did have an inkling as to, or more of a sense of urgency that we saw that a lot of systems in society needed reinventing. And so there we are today. I see this as an opportunity, I once called it this period a sacred pause or a societal reset, and it's up to us to decide how we will use this period. Will we go back to a slightly improved or changed way we did it before, or will we use this period to really reinvent ourselves and to, as you say, recreate our societal systems and organizations on a more humane, sustainable, green way? So that's what I see, and eventually it's up to us in this period of time, Klaus.
And you also wrote that according to you, too many people are actually caught in what you call an unhealthy treadmill of debt production and consumption, and limiting also the creativity or the consciousness of the being human, basically. What are concrete steps, maybe also now that we have this period of reflection, of stopping, of lockdown? What are concrete steps to move from, I would say, a GDP-centered agenda to a more sustainable, green and socially fair agenda?
Well, of course, there's the thing why I wrote this is also that I saw in the, as you said, 22 years that I've been doing this work, I've seen a lot of people getting back to me with, if only I had the chance chance I would be doing this and that, or the job I'm doing now, it really brings home the money, and I have I'm living. I even had a client who once said, "Well, I'm living in a sort of a golden cage. Materialistically, it's perfect, but my soul feels undernourished." And perhaps it sounds a bit big, but that was the way he described it to me. And to make it more concrete, I think that this is a period in which we were all, let's say, thrown back to ourselves. And it's a confrontational period. And it's also a period to make some important decisions for ourselves individually. So what will we be doing in the future, but also what will we not be doing again in the future? And there's one thing that I missed in the whole discussion about creating sustainability, the green agenda, and that's in essence what it means to be human. And what I've learned and that's not just professionally but also personally, is that people feel most alive when they are creative, not when they are consuming. Neil Postman once wrote a brilliant book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. There's only so much binge watching you can do, and it doesn't fulfill you in a deep sense. And so when I talk about sustainability, and I would love to see that at a European level incorporated in the plans, not just being sustainable economically, creating circular economies or green or what have you, but also to put the human being and what it means to be a human being central back again. So I think it's a bit of appalling that with all the opportunities we have and the level of technologies we have, that there are so many people who are still caught in this treadmill. The opinion I have when I speak to people is that they're caught in what I call this treadmill of debt, production, consumption, debt, production, consumption, and it doesn't fulfill people. And I think that's crucial to reintroduce that again. And as I said, I wrote a book, and I wrote the book together with a colleague of mine, Kim Kastemiller, and we are currently focusing, or she is focusing on education, because that's one of the things we should focus on, is that we do not just prepare children for a future in which they can contribute economically, but also a future in which they discover themselves more, in which they learn to know themselves more, to develop their creative sides. That, in my opinion, would create a society I would want to see for my children. And education plays a large part in that. And also, that's something I thought about when we had our small discussion before this video interview, is that we have a unique opportunity, and seizing an opportunity sometimes creates the pitfall of wanting too much too soon. And fundamental change always takes time. And I would want for each and every one of us to give that time to ourselves. So of course we have an opportunity to set a course towards a different future, but don't put unrealistic strain on ourselves. And again, I would hope that the green and sustainability agenda would also place what it means like to be human front and center, because society should not just be sustainable for the economy or for the earth, but also for us human beings.
Yeah, I think which is quite easy, or not easy, but it could be easy identifiable what to do as a, let's say, as a citizen, as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
if you project that on leaders in
Yes.
the largest sense, I mean, you're a leader of a member state, of a nation, of a state, you're a leader of a big company, a corporate, you're leader of a trade union, for instance. What does it? Because you also said we need to know where we want to go, and we need to give us time.
Yeah.
Now, we are slowly coming to this end of the reflection of this period, because the lockdowns are basically step by step now lifted up. What are the next steps? What would you concretely recommend to leaders in this moment what to do. As a citizen, as a human being, you can say, maybe next holidays I will not fly to the Bahamas, but I will take a drawing course or whatever. But what does it entail for leaders?
Yeah, well, perhaps I can elaborate on that best by giving some examples from my own practice here. I have here is that there's one step we tend to forget or to step over lightly, and that is to take a really good look at ourselves. We've all got our own personal baggages and our own societal and collective baggages, and we should take a really good and hard look at what those baggages are, because they influence the way we do things. And that's something that you shouldn't take lightly, because a lot of the motivations for people, for instance, what motivates a person to want to become the leader of a country? Where does this motivation come from? How pure is it? Is it how ego-driven is it? And are you conscious and aware of that? Because quite frankly, if you imagine the strain leaders are under at this moment in time, it's huge. That's huge. So even if they do everything wrong in your eyes, you must understand and recognize and acknowledge that being the leader of the Netherlands or of Germany or in the European Commission, it's not easy. So what drive brought you there? And is that drive really a healthy drive or an unhealthy drive? And that's also one of the discussions I have with my clients in this respect. To give you an example, I have the privilege of one of my clients is a director of a municipal health service. So her work days were completely changed thanks to Corona. She started at 7 each morning, or even 6:30, and ended at midnight, and that for weeks on end. And we had some discussions as to, but this really is extremely straining for you. Where does your motivation to put in these hours come from? And that forced, and we took a good look at that, and that brought a lot of clarity for her, and that also helps in what kind of decisions you make for the period after Corona, because during this period we have no choice as a leader, speaking as leadership, to step up and to take responsibility. But the moment we have some more breathing space, we should use that for self-reflection and to really take an honest and good look at ourselves. And that includes what I call living your unlived life. Perhaps that's also a bit of a philosophical issue, but what I've seen is that a lot of people have these ambitions and dreams, and they haven't fulfilled them because they think, well, that's not up for me, or that's not in it for me. I just have to put my nose to the floor and just keep on working and bring in the cash and then have my job. But take a step back, and perhaps you can integrate that in a different way. And I would hope that would be a process for people. So when I talk about leadership, and that's one point I would really love to bring across today, Klaus, leadership is not just what you do, but it is what kind of being does your doing come from. So I'm convinced that we tend to focus on all the actions of people, but where these actions come from are at least as important. And I hope that there will be more room for being than there has been a focus on all the doing we're doing. And that's something I would want to see. And of course, that would also see that societal systems should create more room for that. And I can imagine, for instance, that something like a basic income could give people more time and more space to develop themselves creatively. But that's just one avenue of thought. There are also arguments against the basic income, but that would be one thing I think about. So all in all, leaders, take a good look at yourself and at your being and at your past, and only then step forward again with new ideas or how to shape the future.
As a final comment, Dirk Anton. Now, if all the trade unions leaders would step back and have a look at themselves or at the mirror, where do you see the risks and the chances now opening up to this? What really happens because of the coronavirus? Of course, on the one hand, you have these labor markets, deep impacts on the labor market, but also on our ways we work. And where do you see now this self-reflection of trade unions? To which conclusion could it lead?
Well, what I would recommend each and every one, and especially also the members and the people in the trade unions, is to first take some time out to see what kind of lessons this Corona period and this sacred pause, this reset has brought us all. Step one is to share stories, but step two is to really distill all the lessons from this period. And when you've got these lessons learned, then you should integrate them in a different way of doing things. Because what is completely obvious to me is that the essential professions, and a lot of the members of CESI represent essential professions, they are the ones who've really kept our society going. They are the heroes, as we call them, in this whole Corona era. So that creates a momentum, let's say a collective appreciation for the work that is done, that trade unions should use. Because now is the time to use that renewed appreciation for these essential professions. And so I would also hope that is one thing that's a chance that is there. What I see as a risk or a pitfall is to return to the way of doing things. I would advise everyone within your own organization to try to distill the lessons learned and to also decide upon how we will proceed in the future based on these lessons. What will we do, what won't we do? But also not fall back on a business as usual. I see that there, with regards to interest representation and defending the rights of workers, there has been a bit of a skewed balance. And the trade unions have had a hard time. And perhaps we should no longer play the game as it was used, as we were used to play, because we know what the outcome of this game is. Perhaps it's time for a whole different game and to step up with a renewed self-confidence and a renewed awareness of where we want to go to. And I would very much hope that. And as to what that will look like, frankly, that's not up to me. That's up to the trade unions themselves. They have the expertise. They have the direct contact with their members, and they should decide upon the right avenue of how to proceed forward. But I would absolutely urge each and every one of the CESI members to use this opportunity as a break from the past. You now have a chance to redefine what it means to be a trade union, to revalue the professions of the people who are represented by the trade unions. And I would absolutely use this opportunity and be very aware of, and we human beings are creatures of habit. So when the systems are back in place, the risk is really high that we will fall back on what we've done before and before and before. And we know that game. We know how that works. And if we truly feel that it's time to do things differently, then use this opportunity to start doing that. And as said, that would start, in my opinion, I would start with reflection internally for people themselves, but also within the organization, and then as a trade union, in how can we, given what we've learned, defend the workers' interest in a better way in the future. So that's what I would absolutely hope to see.
Dirk Anton, very, very interesting. Thank you very much. We will see what we can take over from also your advice. And Yes, it's a real pleasure to have had this interview.
Yeah.
And take care of yourself and of
and
your
Klaus,
family.
I can't leave without mentioning one thing, and that's a tip for everyone here. This my wife is a teacher, so I saw from up close that they had to adapt and adapt and adapt and adapt, because their way of working has changed so much, and it takes a large toll on people. And also, what I've seen in my clients is that this period really requires of each and every one of us to take good care of ourselves, because this really is a strain. Things are different than they were usual, and you have this energy inside that wants to get out there, but you're not able to do that. And please, everyone, take good care of yourself, and that's something I would also urge leaders to do. And so start with taking good care of yourself and your loved ones, and then proceed from there. That's something I would absolutely want to send out as a message to each and every one.
Thank you very much, Dirk Anton.
Yeah, you're welcome, Klaus.